So on to clubs. And clubs are the suit of activity. I think one of the easiest way on a practical level to understand clubs is it's all about activity. It's all about doing things. Clubs are the busiest suit of all the suits. Okay? And if we compare them to spades, spades represent the strength you have to bear things, emotionally, psychologically, and physically. So spades give you the resilience and the grit and the good constitution. And that's a foundation for everything we can do in our life, of course. But clubs represent how much we can do. You know, they're both a male suit. You know, the black suits are the male suits. The spades has to do with the strength of yourself more, though. And that gives you a foundation of strength to do things with. But the clubs is actually how much you do. It's like I said, it's the busiest suit. Now, not all activity is productive, though. So don't think that clubs represent productivity. They don't. Diamonds are the production, the outcome, the result. Okay, but clubs are simply busyness, you know, activity. And they're the highest energy output of all the suits. Spades have tremendous energy too, but that energy is used for survival. So spades are happy to be lazy and sit around, okay, and be efficient with the use of their energy. But clubs are what makes us do things. A lot of what we do in life, we don't have to do. We do it because of clubs. And if we look at our really primitive societies, there wasn't a lot of things for them to do. But the things they did usually took a long time, and therefore any free time they had was taken in resting. You know, they didn't go on jogs, they didn't go do this, because their lives were busy enough that they would conserve the rest. So spades are kind of like that. Look at spades are always the most primitive suit. They're going to be as busy as they need to be to survive. They don't need to be busier than that. They're about efficiency. Why waste more energy that I can use for living? Okay? But clubs are everything we do beyond the energy we put out to stay alive. And that's really what keeps us busy, especially in this modern world. Man has more free time now than it ever had before. Yet people are constantly running around being busy. Okay? And the more clubs they have, the busier they're going to be. Okay? Because everything we do, you know, most of everything we do that we're spending time doing outside of what we need to survive it falls under the energy of our clubs. Okay? It's the extra energy. And if we think of clubs as a suit, it's the leaves on the tree absorbing all that sunlight. And that sunlight is really just such an abundance of energy. So clubs have this abundance of energy that they can use to keep busy with. So activity has to do with amusements. By amusements, it means things that are intellectually stimulating, make a person smile, get a person interested and excited about things. But not something that's personal and connective. That goes to the hearts, okay? As an animal, clubs are birds because they're the air element, and of course birds are soaring on the wind. And of course birds have this really fast sort of metabolism. Birds are very busy creatures, you know. Like if you watch birds, they don't stand still very long, okay, compared to mammals, you know, who are, you know, mammals love laying around, or reptiles, talk about a lazy animal, right? But birds are very flighty, they're always moving, and they're one of the most active animals there is because of that air element. The air element gives movement. Books are ruled by clubs. Business, engaging in business, doing business, your business, keeping busy, all these things are clubs. Okay? Classes are clubs. All right? Especially classes that people take that are for fun, you know, that are amusements. You know, classes, you know, like astrology classes. There's some people here who are listening and are going to be practicing astrology one day. So they're using their clubs to learn astrology, and then they're going to take that to a productive level of diamonds and actually make a living on it and have that as a resource to survive. A lot of people will be entertained by it, they'll be amused by it. And then some people will learn a lot about through themselves and philosophize, get a lot of good philosophy out of it. And different people will get different degrees of that from the study based on what's going on in their cards, in their birth spread. People who have really, really strong, lots of clubs or a club-heavy spread can be busy all the time but never be productive. So I always say when you see clubs in a spread, always look for some diamonds so that all that energy can end up somewhere. Okay? And then if this person has lots of spades, they're going to be working on themselves, but then if there's no hearts, there's never going to be anything to connect to, and they'll feel isolated. Spades are all about becoming better so we can connect to something in a healthier way. And that means a spiritual life, a devotional spiritual life, or it means another person. So people have a lot of spades but no hearts, they, will feel really stuck. So we really want to see those complementary interactive suits together in the spread. But especially with clubs in this world, it's so easy to be distracted and be so busy and have so many fun things and so many amusements, go to so many classes, be busy all the time, but never be productive with it, never get known for it, never get a reputation for it, never get paid for it. Those are all diamond things. So ideally, you always want to see clubs with diamonds. If you cast a spread and you see a bunch of clubs with no diamonds, you know the person's being way too busy and not getting anywhere. But let's say the question's about education, and you cast it and there's lots of clubs and no diamond. Whatever, they'll be learning a lot, but it's not going to make a difference in their life. So clubs are this intermediary almost that are there to get us to the diamonds, okay, to get us something valuable back at the end, all right? And if not, a person eventually will run out of steam because we always have to complete the circle, right? And I'm sure everyone knows people who are really excitable, really interested in lots of things, constantly being amused, constantly doing this or doing that, but not really making a name for themselves, not able to make a great living, and so on. But and that's a pure club. So clubs really need diamonds. No suit will work really well in isolation, whether you're casting a spread or whether you look at the birth spread. So casting cards and it's all clubs. All right, the person's super busy, but are they getting anywhere? No, they need to have something else there to get there. And a person can learn so much. They can be all clubby and learn so much and learn so much. And from all that learning, they can come to astrology classes, they can go read all their gurus' books, and they can learn this and learn that. But without diamonds, they won't have any realization. Okay, so even on the spiritual level, the philosophical level, the diamonds are the aha, the realization. Diamonds are always the payoff, what we, at the end, need more than anything else. And especially clubs need to get to the diamonds because that's the very next suit in the circle. And so if a person asks and says, oh, what about this guru? And you cast a spread and it's all clubs, and there's no diamond in it, no good diamonds in it, the result would be, oh, this will be really interesting, you'll learn a lot of information, but it's not going to help you get any realization. But if you get some diamonds in that spread, oh, you will have realizations from studying this guru's work and so on. Okay? So classes can, they could just be classes for amusement. And that's fine, that's great, because being entertained, being amused by things, having hobbies are an important part of what we need as people. But people who have clubs have those things. Okay? The more clubs the person has, the more amusements they have, the more hobbies they have, and all these, and the more activities they have to enjoy. Okay? But again, if that's all there is, and there's no realization, no return, no status, no name, no diamonds at the end, their lives aren't going anywhere. So you really want to see some diamonds with clubs always, okay? So classes don't always have to be anything but fun, okay? Communications, obviously clubs. Conveying information. Conventions are clubs. One of the traditional club meanings is social activities. And it's social activities in the context of meetings, conventions, going to class to interact with like-minded people. So anytime you do something social that's not for the purpose of hearts, for love and connection and support, then it's a club social interaction. These two are the most social. If you get a person in their birth spread that's got all hearts and all clubs, they're so social. They're connecting emotionally, they're connecting in a fun way through the clubs and a stimulating way through the clubs. And they'll know everybody, but they won't make money, they won't learn anything about, they won't, progress as individuals. It's not a great thing to have all hearts and all clubs. And except for the social life. The social life is never ending then. Okay? Because those two suits, hearts and clubs, while they're both social in different ways, they can't build with each other. Alright? Alright. So, meetings, conventions, going to classes, anything that's a social activity that we do to socialize and share our information and talk and discuss and play with people, going and playing games with people, your weekly chess match with somebody, those type of things. Those are all going to be ruled by clubs, okay? And that's the social part of the club. So it's not that emotional, connective thing. It's of the hearts, okay? So those are the other type of social things which we talked about. Okay. Has to do with documents. All documents are ruled by clubs. Any kind of documentation and documents. Therefore, paperwork is also ruled by clubs. Clubs people don't mind paperwork as a job. If it's their job to do paperwork, it's fun for them. They get to keep busy with paperwork. They'll actually enjoy that. Now, a hard person is going to be destroyed by too much paperwork, okay? Hobbies, huge part of the clubs. I'm a very club-rich person. Luckily, I have some diamonds. I've been able to actually do something useful. But I feel like most of my life is a giant hobby, including, astrology. It feels like I just have this huge hobby that I'm heavily invested in. And since I was a kid, I just remember getting into hobbies from my earliest age. One hobby for 2 years, another hobby for 2 years, another hobby for 2 years. Astrology was just a hobby I never quit, But hobbies, which are just amusements, exciting, interesting things that a person likes, where they entertain themselves with something. That's what a hobby is. And I bet you add some diamonds to the spread, and now the hobbies can end up being productive for the person. Okay? But yeah, if you've seen my birth spread, you'll see it's very club-rich. And like I said, most of my life feels like it's been a hobby, most of it. Okay? Learning is clubs. Teaching is also clubs. So whether you're learning or teaching, they're both clubs, the interchange of information. Okay? But will the learning have practical value? Will the teaching provide realization? We need diamonds for that. Otherwise, it's just ideas. Okay? Clubs, of course, are the leaves on the tree that nourish the tree. Then they break down, decompose, and nourish the soil. So everything about the clubs ultimately has to nourish something, has to feed something. And it does that through the diamond suit, okay? Practical matters have to deal with clubs. So by practical matters, all the little things you just sort of have to do. Oh, I have to call the phone company, get my phone set up. Oh, I have to check the bus schedule so I can get to work. Oh, I have to get my car fixed because I need to go drive to New Mexico next week, All these little practical things we do to make our lives work out are all ruled by clubs, okay? So if you see a troubled spread with lots of clubs in difficult position, the person could simply be overwhelmed by practical matters, okay? And one of the funny thing about clubs, because it does have to do with practical matters, to a club person, or a person who's running a club-heavy period in their life, practical matters, they're just so practical. It just seems so sensible to take care of them. Because of that, clubs will oftentimes overexert themselves, work too much, be too busy, because it's just so obvious, yeah, practically speaking, I can do this. Hearts people and will oftentimes have things they want to do that aren't practical, so they can't do them, they can't waste energy on them. But a club, because it's all about practicalities are things that can actually be done. Well, you can actually do that. So I guess I better get busy with it. No sense waiting till tomorrow. So clubs, because so much practical matters can be attended to, it can be easy for them to overwork and overdo stuff. And that's why it's healthy, of course, to have some balancing cards like hearts, which are restful, some spades, which are restful, and of course some diamonds, which give a result that once the person has the result, they can relax for a little bit. But you'll find club-heavy people aren't the kind of people who like to lay around and sit around, because just practically speaking, there's so many things they could be doing, okay? And it just makes sense to them to get up and do those things. Clubs represent progress through activity. So we're trying to progress in life. But clubs is specifically progress that happens through being active, through being busy. All right, so activity and busyness and business are like the huge keywords for the club suit. Okay, even like philosophy, which is the spiritual aspect of the club suit, that's very much a way of keeping the mind busy. It's an activity of the mind to philosophize, right? Philosophy without realization is worthless, though, right? So clubs without diamonds won't feed anybody, won't do any good to the world, just amuse you and entertain you. So with clubs, you always got to see which way is it going. Is it just energy? And clubs, more than any suit, are the energy suit. They're the solar panels collecting all the light from the sun in the form of photosynthesizing leaves. So they're all the energy. So clubs people have the energy to be busy and be active and do things. Okay? And a spread with lots of clubs is, oh, it's time to be busy. And there's opportunities to be busy. It practically makes sense to be busy. There's the energy to be busy, whatever the case may be. And the person will make progress because of being active and being busy when it comes to the clubs. But again, will that energy go somewhere? And so always look for the other cards that aren't clubs to see where can this energy end up. Okay? Because clubs are just energy. In the end, it's just energy. Even when you read your guru's books, all that it does, there's nothing useful in those books except that it gives you the energy to want to work on yourself spiritually. It gives you the energy to work towards self-realization. Reading the inspiring stories and the cool tales and stuff like that, yeah, it's fun and it's great, but no one ever became enlightened because of that. But if it inspires the person, energizes the person to do the work and get realized it served its purpose. But if it doesn't, then it's just entertainment. At that point, the person might as well just watch their favorite TV show over and over and over again. There'll be no different in how it impacts themselves or the world. So remember, clubs are energy, but it's the energy yielding a result. That's always the things to look for. So because of that, we can't say clubs is a good suit. Like in general, we say, oh, spades is a tough suit because life is hard. Staying alive is hard. Hearts is a good suit because support is wonderful. Nourishment is wonderful. And diamonds is a great suit because resources and ability and things that you have that can actually make your journey through life easier and better are diamonds. Wonderful suit. Clubs, it's not a tough suit like spades. But it's not an easy suit. It's just the suit of energy. Is that energy going to be wasted and not yield a result? Then it's tough. But if the energy yields a result, then it's positive. So with clubs, always look for the results. Okay? Now if you get a club as the result card, then it means the person's going to be busy. The result is, the outcome is, you're going to be busy. Okay? Which kind of means you're not going to have gotten where you wanted to get to yet. When you get a club as an outcome, it always means, yep, more work to do. More things to do. You're not done yet. Okay? So a club is never the outcome card you want. It just means I'm going to be engaged, I'm going to be busy, I might be socially active, I'm going to be active and busy, but I'm not done with anything yet, haven't gotten anywhere yet. Okay? And a negative club, a difficult club at the outcome could just mean a person spinning their wheels, busy, 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 and not getting anywhere. Okay? It has to do with schools, teaching, as I mentioned as well. It has to do with willful activity. Okay? Clubs are all about, I'm putting my energy in this direction. Okay? And it's willful energy. Meaning you're putting your energy in that direction. Okay? And that's an interesting thing about clubs. I'll talk about that in a moment more. But clubs also have to do with work, in the sense of work that just keeps us busy. It's not the work we need to stay alive. That's Spades. But all the work we do above and beyond that is clubs. Okay? So willful activity. The funny thing about clubs is they are willful activity. And those of you who studied with me for a while know that I don't believe in egocentric free will. Okay? Yet, because I'm a club-heavy person, I'm very willful. I'm a very willful activity. I do activities according to my will all day long. I mean, it's insane how willful my activity gets to be. I've somehow created a life where almost every action I do is according to my will. Yet, I don't believe in free will as a philosophy. I don't believe in free will. I don't believe in egocentric will. I don't believe I have will that can change things any different than God chooses to have them unfold. Okay? Any different than God in the form of the planets wants them to unfold. That's my philosophy. Yet I act like I'm the most self-centered, willful person on earth because of the clubs. And so willful activity is simply, I have an idea to act this way, and wow, I'm actually acting that way. Okay? And whereas if you see people who, and again, what is the activities that are happening? Well, the activities that are in the horoscope, in the casting of the cards, activity that's in the, the astrology and all that stuff. Yet they're manifested as willful activities. Okay? But that doesn't mean it's, it's personal egocentric will making that happen. Okay? It's just that the activity is directed from the self. The self directs the activity. But self is connected to all kinds of things. And so it's not the ego that's doing that. It's not the I. The I is just an idea of separate existence. It's an idea. How can an idea do anything? An idea can't do anything. It's just an idea. The force within us that does something is not the I. It's a completely different force. And that force can be directed through this vehicle. Okay? Through this consciousness, through this body. And that's willful activity. And that's what the clubs are. They're a very willful activity suit. So they're never bored. They always can think of something to do. There's always something they want to do. All right? It's a very different suit than some other suits. Hearts can be very active, but their activity always requires another person. They need to connect to something to be active, because that's the nature of hearts, right? Hearts are at rest until they're connected. And once they're connected, then they can get active with something. Okay? But clubs are willful activity in the sense that their mind comes up with actions. And it is as a result, it's a willful action. Because they see themselves doing it in their minds, and then they proceed to doing it. Okay? But that's, again, just how consciousness flows through the clubs. And I find that one of the funny things is, I think Fashit said it best. He said, there is no willpower, but it's important to act like there is anyway. Okay? And that's really the game we have to play with themselves. We have to use our will, knowing that it doesn't exist. And that makes no sense at all. It's a space of being in. Okay? It's a state of being, and a state of awareness, I guess you'd say. And it's a spiritualizing state of awareness. And clubs by themselves aren't going to be able to have that quality, because they're willful activity, and that can easily be turned into, oh, this is all my will. It's all my personal egocentric will, and be confused by it. But if there's diamonds, there can be a realization of the will on a deeper level, where the activity is coming from on a deeper level. Okay? But because of the willful activities of the clubs, you'll see some very willful people who've got clubs. You'll see some club people who are very willful people, in the sense of just having an iron, scary, cold will. Now, cold, scary, what suit does that make you think of? Spades. Okay? When you get clubs and spades together, the person can have this intense, scary self-will. That when they say this is the way it is there's a quality to it that nobody can go against. Okay, and that's a real sheer willfulness. The willfulness of the clubs is willful activity. I act according to what I see in my mind. That's the club's willful activity. But it's light. The clubs are light. They're these leaves. Spades are heavy and they're cold and they're like anchored and they're like a sword, right? They cut through things. And that's the will of a person who's got spades with clubs, okay? And I've seen, I'm really club heavy, and as a result, I'm constantly doing, on a light level, what I envision myself doing. But when I'm around certain people, meaning all people, certain people I only know a few is what I mean. When I'm around people who have lots of spades and lots of clubs, wow, when they say something's going to be the certain way, there's no will in my, there's no, okay, I'm doing it. Yes, I'll be a good boy. I'm just a good boy at that point. There's no competition, there's no challenge of me to them, because spades just drop the hammer on the willful activity. There's a coldness and a heaviness to it that you can't go against. And it can be very scary sometimes. I get scared sometimes when clubs and spades people, pull out their will card, so to speak. When they get willful, there's like, okay, there's nothing I can do. And there's a sheer strength of self-will when you get spades with clubs. Clubs alone are not that kind of willfulness. There's not enough self in clubs. The willful activity of the clubs is the mind is engaged in ideas that it thinks would be cool and neat and amusing, and then it follows the activities of those ideas. And it's a very light, flowing, windy, air element thing. But the spades, the will of a spade is just like, I'm here and I'm a mountain and nobody's going to change or move anything at this moment. Wow. And then you add that to the willful activity of the clubs, and these are the people that when it comes to the things that they set their minds on, or that they decide to be willful on, I should say, there's no moving them. You can't move them. A bulldozer won't get them out of the room if they decide to sit there. Okay? Clubs aren't like that by themselves. They're a light, fun, willful activity. Oh, I feel like doing this. I want to do this. I want to do this. And it's a light, trivial, easy type thing. And it's not a deep, serious willfulness. So don't get confused with that, okay? It's the willful activity of someone who's just busy with their life. Oh, I'm busy doing this. I want to do this. I think I need to do this. Oh, I want to attend to this practical matter. And so they're constantly saying, yeah, I need to do this. I want to do this. I'm busy. I, which is the self, am busy. That's the willful activity of the clubs. The willfulness of a club and spade mix is, this is the way it is. Okay, you're right, it's that way. I won't mess with it. Okay, so there are some new ideas with clubs. Once I started looking at clubs as just business and activity, it made them so easier to use just in the context of practically reading cards. Just practically doing it. For instance, last week I had a reading with someone, and in their future card they were having the 7 of clubs come up. And I told them that in the future their business would be over. I said, it's the end of your business. And this has been a business they've had for over 25 years, and there was a point where they were making tons of money with their business, had a really good business going. And with the 7 of clubs there, I said, the business is over. I said, but that's the outer form, because the 7 the seven of clubs is the tower, right? And the tower is an external structure dying or being destroyed. It's the falling towers. The tower, the house dies, but the occupant doesn't die. So the spirit of it doesn't die. And I said, your business is gonna end. I said, but the work, the stuff you've been doing is not ending. It's just the business is ending. And then after that, I saw a good card, the Six of Diamonds, which is a card of financial prosperity in the sense of, getting away from all the financial stress and deserving getting away from all the financial stress. One thing about number 6 is they're all about deserving, getting your nice dues. 7s are about getting your unnice dues, but the nice dues that you get, the payday for the good things you've done, is the 6s. And so I'm here looking at all the cards showing this failing business with the business termination card, the 7 of clubs, right there in the future. And then the outcome card is the 6 of diamonds, which means financially you're not going to have any stress. I said, but even with your business failing, somehow financially you're not going to have any stress. And so, and then I also had a card in the going for them, which was a card that specified a certain institution to me, and I can't say what it is because this has to be very hush-hush, so I can't really divulge what that card was and what institution it represented right now. But they decided they were giving all their work to this institution, and that the business was dissolving. So the work was going to remain. The spirit of the work and the ideas and all the work was going to remain, but their business was over. And this institution was going to be handling their life's work without any connection of their name or their brand to the new work. So the business completely gone. Their name is out of it, their business name is out of it, but the whole work, the whole body of work was all being taken by this institution. And so it was like really an amazing reading. Somehow I was lucky to be very accurate. So, what was the point I was making? So the 7 of clubs was the termination of a business. And if I hadn't have looked at clubs as being business, I would have said, well, you got the 7 of clubs, you're going to really come to terms with some beliefs about yourself and your life. Well, that's not very practical, right? People will pay you more money. You will have more diamonds in your life if we do less philosophizing and more practicalities. And that's what this course is an attempt to do, is to give more practical value to your readings. This is a diamonds course, okay? With, of course, some philosophy, because I just can't shut up, right? Because I have too many clubs. So knowing that clubs are business and activity can make all the difference, Say you get a person who's getting sick because they got 5 of clubs on their Saturn card with some bad planets in it. Then you just say, oh, you're making yourself sick from overactivity. Simple. Okay? Business and activity. If you can remember that about the clubs, when it comes to practicalities, it's going to be so much easier. And busyness. I'm busy, busy, busy. Doing what? Well, all the things that people do that they don't need to do to survive. That's the club suit. Okay. Thank you.